On the very day I was doubled over in pain from my period, my husband ordered a warm drink, but not for me, for his secretary, with our joint bank card. I didn't cry. I just quietly made a phone call. And you? If you found out your husband was cheating through nothing more than a $5 drink, who would you call? Would you call to ask or call to end it? Tell me your answer down in the comments. In the dim light of the bedroom, I curled up on the bed, my lower abdomen clenched as if crushed by stone. The pain had dragged on since the afternoon, cold seeping through my body. My phone buzzed softly. A spending notification from our joint account popped up. Only $5, but that number made my heart tighten. I knew beneath my husband's office building, there was only one cafe selling an almond milk latte with 2 shots of sugar-free vanilla syrup for exactly that price. It was the favorite drink of Lillian Harper, Thomas's secretary. I gripped the phone, the cold blue glow of the screen hitting my face, sharp as ice. Our wedding anniversary, Thomas forgot. My birthday, he didn't remember. Even our son's very first birthday, he missed just to take Lillian to the hospital because she had a leg ache. He forgot all of that, but he remembered exactly what she liked to drink, remembered her period days, tracked her closer than the FBI. The lock clicked softly in the night. Thomas walked in, the sweet, fruity perfume clinging to his shirt. Hers, not mine. Lillian's signature scent. He bent down, about to kiss my forehead out of habit. "Margaret, why aren't you asleep yet?" His voice gentle, but I heard the impatience under it. I turned my head away from his kiss, raised the phone, its glaring light like an accusation. "Explain this, Thomas." He glanced at the transaction history, his face unchanged, except for a flicker of irritation. "Lillian was working late. She was tired, so I ordered her a drink. So what? Everyone at the company knows I care about my subordinates. Margaret, why are you so sensitive?" His words cut like a sharp blade, stabbing my heart with cold numbness. Caring for subordinates? The company had 100 employees, but the only subordinate he cared about was one. "Thomas, do you even remember what day it is today?" He froze, eyes flicking over me, confused as if I had asked nonsense. "What day? Isn't it just an ordinary Wednesday?" He shrugged, voice careless. I stared at him, my gaze icy. Ordinary Wednesday. 3 years ago, on this very day, I was in surgery, blood pouring out after giving birth to a son. The doctor said I nearly didn't make it. He once held my hand, eyes red, swearing he would love and cherish me for life. And now he forgot it all. His memory only for Lillian, for that damned latte. "Thomas!" I threw off the blanket, my bare feet pressing onto the freezing wooden floor. "Do you think that 3 years I stayed home, raised our child, cared for you, made me useless?" He frowned, surprise laced with doubt. "What are you talking about, Margaret?" "You forgot, didn't you?" I answered, every word sharp as a knife. "I am the largest shareholder of the company." Thomas's face shifted. His usual confidence disappeared, replaced by a flicker of caution. "What are you planning?" His voice dropped, probing. "Nothing at all," I smirked, a cold smile. "I just find being a housewife boring now. Starting tomorrow, I'll return to the company. If you're too busy to even remember your son's birthday, I'll manage things and help ease your load." Thomas laughed, as if I had told a joke. "Are you serious? You've been out 3 years. What do you even know about the market now? About new projects? Margaret, stop making a fuss. Go to sleep." He reached to pull me, but I shoved him off, the force startling even myself. "Whether I make a fuss or not, you'll find out tomorrow." I turned and walked into the study, locked the door. In the darkness, I dialed a number I hadn't touched in years. The line picked up immediately, a steady male voice. Miss Taylor, at last you've called. I've been waiting for this call. It was George Harris, co-founder of the company, the one I trusted most. George, my voice was hoarse, but not trembling. Inform the board. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., I want an emergency meeting to remove CEO Thomas Turner. I sat there long after hanging up. The room was pitch black, only the cold glow of the screen stretching across the wall, like a thin crack that had split 3 years of silence. I didn't feel angry, just empty, as if my heart had evaporated piece by piece in those years of being labeled the housewife. If I didn't stand up today, then when? At 8:30 the next morning, I stood in front of the company building, wearing a fitted black suit, the fabric hugging my body, my elegant heels striking firm rhythms against the marble floor. Each step I took seemed to make the air around me grow heavier, like the overture to a coming battle. The young receptionist stared at me in shock, stammering, "Mez. Taylor?" I gave a slight nod, walking straight toward the elevator without a single wasted word. Behind me, whispers rippled among the staff. "Isn't that the boss's wife? Why is she here today? It's been 3 years, but her presence is still as commanding as ever." I heard last night Thomas and his secretary Lillian worked late. Could it be she's here to catch them? The elevator door slid open, and the first person I saw was Lillian Harper. She wore a cream-colored dress, hair falling softly, light makeup making her look like some elegant heroine out of a novel. When she saw me, she feigned surprise, then quickly offered a falsely friendly smile. "Margaret, what brings you to the company today?" "Looking for Thomas?" The way she called me by my first name instead of Mrs. Taylor was a subtle tactic, her intention to lower my status obvious. "Thomas is in a morning meeting," she continued, reaching out as if to touch my arm like we were close. "Why don't you wait in his office?" I leaned away, my voice cold as winter wind. "Lillian, do you know Section 3, Clause 7 in the company dress code?" Her smile froze, lips trembling. That dress she wore, though pretty, was clearly unfit for a workplace. Too short, too revealing. Passing employees stole glances, their eyes tinged with mockery as they whispered. Lillian bit her lip, her eyes watery as if I were bullying her. "I'm sorry, Margaret. I'm still new here. I didn't know the rules." I didn't spare her another look. "If you don't know the rules, go to HR and let them retrain you." With that, I walked straight toward the CEO's office, leaving her trailing behind me. I pushed the door open. Thomas sat behind his desk, surrounded by several department heads, clearly in the middle of an important meeting. His brows knitted tightly, his face darkened when he saw me. Lillian rushed to his side, pitiful like a drenched kitten, choking out her words. "Thomas, I tried to stop her, but it seems Margaret. Thomas, she scolded me. I only dressed like this because you said it made me look approachable to clients." Thomas looked at her tearful eyes, his face sinking even darker. He turned toward me, his gaze sharp as knives. "Margaret, I personally hired Lillian for her abilities. Don't bring baseless suspicions here to make trouble for employees. This is a company, not your home. Don't bring that attitude in here." His voice was loud, sharp enough for the whole office to hear. The department heads exchanged glances, a mix of shock and curiosity, the tension stretched tight, like a string about to snap. I looked around, my lips curling into a contemptuous smile. "Thomas is right. This is a company. And as the largest shareholder, I'm informing you that at exactly 9 a.m., you are required to attend the emergency board meeting. After all, Until you're officially dismissed, you're still the CEO. Don't keep everyone waiting. Thomas's expression shifted from anger to disbelief, then turned ashen like burnt-out ash. He stammered, "You! What are you talking about?" I paid no attention to his reaction, turning instead to stride into the boardroom with firm steps. George Harris was already waiting, rising respectfully. "Miss Taylor?" I nodded. "George, is everything ready?" "All set," he replied, handing me a thick stack of documents, his voice dropping heavy with gravity. "These are all the investment projects Thomas approved over the past 6 months. 3 are high risk, but he pushed them through anyway, causing huge losses. He concealed it and never reported to the board, and my fingers skimmed over the documents, cold seeping into my bones. So this was his so-called understanding of the market? This was the brilliant competence he boasted of? He thought of me as nothing more than a naive housewife, while he tossed my life's work into the abyss. Fine. This time, I would show no mercy. ACT3, ACT3. The air in the boardroom was frozen stiff. Thomas sat in the chairman's seat, his face dark, his eyes avoiding mine. Beside him were a few close department heads, the ones who once treated him as the company's pillar. "Miss Taylor, why did you call us here today?" Mr. Price spoke first, his voice thick with doubt. "Thomas has given his devotion to this company for years. You just came back and already demand to dismiss him. Isn't that unreasonable?" "That's right," another chimed in, defensive. "The company is doing well. Changing the director now will damage the company." Calmly, I handed out the stack of documents George had prepared, to each one of them, every movement slow but commanding. "Gentlemen, first take a look at this." The room fell silent, broken only by the rustle of pages turning. As each sheet was read, the directors' faces twisted, while cold sweat formed on Thomas's forehead, glistening under the fluorescent lights. He shot up, pointing at me, his voice shaking with rage and panic. "Impossible! Margaret, you forged these documents to frame me." "Frame you?" I curled my lips, my voice calm but cutting sharp like a blade. "Every contract has your signature and your seal. Thomas, do you need me to bring in handwriting experts to remind you?" His lips twitched, words stuck in his throat. His hands clenched so hard they turned white. Mr. Price slammed the files onto the table, his voice filled with fury. "A $1 million loss, and you dared hide it from us? What do you take us for? An ATM? Walls collapse when everyone pushes." Those who defended Thomas seconds ago now turned on him, their voices rising, accusations raining down like hammers against steel. I sat watching quietly, without triumph, only a deep sorrow rising in my chest. I remembered the early days, in our tiny studio apartment, Thomas and I sharing a cheap box of pasta, his eyes burning with ambition. He once pointed to the sparkling city lights outside the window, saying, "Margaret, just wait. One day, I'll put you in one of those skyscrapers and make you the happiest woman alive." He had ambition. I had business sense. We spent countless sleepless nights drafting hundreds of plans just to get our first investment. On the day we founded the company, he held me close and whispered, "Margaret, this company, half is mine, half is yours. No, yours is more. You're the biggest shareholder." My lifelong anchor, I believed he would never forget our beginning. Then I got pregnant, morning sickness so severe I couldn't eat. To protect the baby, I left work. After giving birth, I poured myself into caring for our family. He once said, "Margaret, I'll handle the company. You just care for the baby, I'll protect you both." But he was the one who turned me from a partner into a housewife trapped in our own home. And now he dared call me outdated. unfit to understand the company. What a joke. Gentlemen, I tapped lightly on the table, cutting through the tension, my voice clear and unwavering. Thomas's personal mistakes have caused serious losses. He is no longer fit to serve as CEO. I propose that I, Margaret Taylor, temporarily assume the CEO position until a replacement is found. I object, Thomas roared, springing up, his face red with rage. Objection overruled, I answered coldly, my eyes locking on him. Beyond my own shares, George has entrusted me with his 10%. I now hold 51% of the shares. The decision is mine. Thomas staggered, collapsing back into his chair, his eyes wide with shock, fury, and fear. He never imagined I had this move, never imagined the wife he dismissed as a naive housewife could flip the board on him. The meeting ended, and I officially took over as CEO. Thomas was suspended pending investigation. He left the boardroom like a hollow man, dragging his heavy steps across the floor. Lillian was waiting outside, her face pale when she saw him. She tried to rush to comfort him, but Thomas shoved her away, snarling, "Get out of my sight!" For the first time, I saw him rage at her. Lillian froze, wide-eyed, but I had no interest in watching further. I returned to the CEO's office, a space both familiar and strange. The desk I had once chosen, the potted plant I had placed still stood, but now there was a pastel pink thermos and a photo frame. In it, Thomas and Lillian at an amusement park, smiling brightly. Lillian held cotton candy, wearing Mickey ears, leaning on his shoulder. He gazed at her with the tenderness I once thought was mine alone. I gripped the frame so hard my hands trembled, then hurled it into the trash, glass shattering with a sharp crack. Picking up the intercom, my voice flat. Send Lillian Harper to my office immediately. Soon she walked in, now dressed in proper business attire, but her eyes still faintly red, her demeanor frail and pitiful. "Miss Taylor, you called me," she whispered, wringing her hands, tense. Leaning back in the chair, I studied her slowly, my gaze cold as if she were a chess piece already spent. "Lillian, how long have you worked here?" "Over 3 months," she answered softly, her voice trembling, eyes fixed on the floor. 3 months and 7 days. I nodded, my tone even but sharp as a knife. "How much has Thomas been paying you to devote yourself so completely that you spend even your private time on him?" Lillian's face flushed red, her lips pressed tight, panic flashing in her eyes. "Miss Taylor, you've misunderstood. Thomas and I are just colleagues." Her pitch rose, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her lie. "Is that so?" I opened my bag, pulled out a stack of photos, and slapped them onto the desk with a dry thud. The pictures scattered like a verdict no one could deny. Thomas and Lillian strolling the streets, him buying her handbags, dropping her off late at night, kissing her outside her apartment building. Even photos from the night of my son's first birthday, when Thomas was absent but at Lillian's place, his eyes full of affection for her. George had collected these photos long ago. I had kept them, hoping Thomas's lapse was temporary, hoping he'd return to his family. Now I saw how foolishly naive I had been. Lillian stared at the photos, her face pale as chalk. We, she stammered, searching for excuses, but her voice strangled as if squeezed by a hand. "Enough," I cut her off, unwilling to hear another cheap excuse. "I have one question. Which card paid for the things Thomas bought you?" Her lips trembled, her eyes widened in terror, but no words came. Her silence was the clearest answer. No need to say it. I stood, moving toward her, each step slow but heavy, carrying the weight of a storm. Lillian, you have two choices. 1. Resign yourself, take your pay, and walk away. 2. I call the police, charge you with defamation and breach of contract. Oh, and by the way, the project information Thomas leaked to you over the past 6 months is more than enough to land you in legal trouble. Lillian shook uncontrollably, tears welling, not from remorse, but from resentment and fear. What are you implying? She screamed, her voice breaking, like a beast cornered. Thomas loves me. He said he would marry me. He said you were just a boring old woman. Her words were a last desperate blade, trying to cut me, but I only let out a cold laugh, tossing the photos back in front of her, the sound of paper falling like a final sentence. You really thought you could fool me with these games? Lillian clutched her face, stunned, her trembling hands covering features now twisted by fear. You dare threaten me. Her voice was weak, stripped of all her earlier arrogance. I'm not just threatening. I lifted the phone, my tone metallic. Security, escort her out. I don't want to see this woman in this company again. 2 guards came in, each seizing an arm, dragging her out. She struggled, shrieking, her piercing cries echoing through the hallway. Margaret, Thomas won't forgive you. But her voice was nothing more than wind, unable to shake me. I watched her disheveled figure vanish through the doors, my heart unnaturally calm, like a lake after a storm. With Lillian dealt with, I turned to clearing the wreckage Thomas had left behind. His 3 high-risk projects were like ticking bombs. One wrong move, and the company would collapse. I locked myself in the office, working 2 days and 2 nights without sleep. The piles of documents stacked like mountains, every figure, every contract a reminder of Thomas's failures. George looked at me, worry in his eyes, gently urging, Miss? Taylor, you need to take care of yourself. At this pace, you'll collapse. I'm fine. I rubbed my aching temples, my voice hoarse from exhaustion. This company is the result of years of work from Thomas and me. I won't let it fall apart in front of me. But as I drowned myself in work, another storm was quietly gathering, a blade waiting in the dark, ready to stab me in the back. On the company's internal forum, a sudden hot post appeared, its headline blazing red like blood. Shocking news! Female CEO takes revenge on cheating husband, even if it means destroying the company. Attached was an audio clip, expertly spliced. My voice rang out, sharp and venomous. I want him penniless. Let the company collapse. I don't care. As long as he suffers, I'll do anything. The background noise was messy, but my voice was clear beyond denial, like a verdict announced to the whole world. Another post followed quickly, accusing me of forcing Lillian, a talented secretary, to resign out of petty jealousy. It claimed I had halted major potential projects to get back at Thomas, pushing the company to the brink of ruin. The rumors spread like wildfire, from company hallways to private employee chats. The information leaked outside, and within hours, the company's stock price plummeted uncontrollably on the trading floor. Calls from partners poured in, their voices icy. We need to reconsider working with your company. I sat in my office, staring at the plunging stock chart on my computer screen, every number mocking the efforts I had poured in these past few days. My hands were cold, as if the blood in my veins had stopped flowing. I didn't need to guess. I knew this was Thomas and Lillian's scheme. They wanted to corner me, to paint me as the villain inside the very company I had built with my sweat. The office door suddenly slammed open with a bang, making me jolt. Thomas stormed in, full of swagger, throwing the morning paper onto my desk. The bold headline screamed, Wealthy marriage drama explodes into corporate war. Female CEO vows to destroy the company. My photo in a black suit, my cold eyes, had been twisted to make me look like some wicked witch. "Margaret!" Thomas growled, jabbing a finger at me, his bloodshot eyes burning. "Have you lost your mind? You want to destroy everything we built all these years?" I lifted my head, my gaze locking onto his, icy and unflinching. "Thomas, how long are you planning to keep acting?" "What are you talking about?" he roared, but I caught the flicker of unease in his eyes. "That recording, wasn't it you who released it?" I asked, my voice calm enough to chill the room, as if I were talking about the weather instead of a filthy plot. For a split second, Thomas's face stiffened, panic flashing in his eyes. But he quickly regained his confidence, shouting louder to cover it. "The whole company heard it, not just me." "I was blind to ever trust you, Margaret. You're pure evil." Behind him, the office door swung open again, and a crowd of shareholders and senior managers flooded in, blocking the exit. One by one, their voices rose, harsh and accusing, stabbing into me like knives. "Miss Taylor, you need to explain this clearly." An older shareholder slammed his hand on the table, his face red with rage. "Are you trying to sabotage the company?" a younger director barked, suspicion blazing in his eyes. "You just want to split the assets and run, don't you?" Another snarled, as if I were an unpardonable criminal. Dozens of eyes bore into me, filled with contempt and condemnation, and among them stood Thomas, tall and smug, his lips curled in a victorious smile, as if he already had the game in his hands. That smile reminded me of the tender gaze he once gave Lillian, of the promises he whispered by my hospital bed, all of it now nothing but lies. I drew in a deep breath, rose from my chair, my back straight, my eyes sweeping across each face in the room. The air thickened, every gaze locked on me. "Give me 10 minutes, I said, my voice low but unwavering, "and I'll make everything clear." Then I pressed the intercom, my tone steady as steel. "George, begin." My assistant quickly connected the big screen in the boardroom. A video began to play, the images crystal clear, drawing gasps of shock from the crowd. The video opened with surveillance footage from the company's year-end party that night. Because my son had a high fever, I had to leave early. On screen, Lillian was seen dragging him, his steps unsteady, into a private lounge. She didn't leave, but locked the door tightly. Lillian sat down beside Thomas, who was sprawled out on the sofa, eyes shut, his breath heavy with alcohol. She pulled out her phone, aimed it at him, and began to speak, deliberately imitating my tone, sharp and filled with hatred. "I want him penniless. Let the company collapse. I don't care. As long as he suffers, I'll do anything." Her mimicry of my voice and cadence was almost identical. She paused, checked the recording, then opened an editing app on her phone, quickly altering her own voice into mine, making it sound exactly like the real thing. At the end of the video, Lillian sent the fake audio to Thomas via text, whispering with sly calculation. "Thomas, I accidentally recorded this. You need to be careful." The entire room fell into dead silence. Eyes bulged at the screen, mouths hung open, words failed them. Thomas's face drained from flushed red to ghostly pale, as though every drop of blood had been sucked out. He staggered, clutching the edge of the table to keep from collapsing, his eyes wide with horror. "No. Impossible." His voice trembled, as if even he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Thomas." I stepped forward, my gaze locked on him like ice, my voice low but sharp as a blade. "There's a thing called voice recognition. You thought you were thorough? Too bad you picked the wrong accomplice." Lillian knows nothing about counter-investigation. I paused, letting each word pierce him, then continued, colder than ice. Oh, I almost forgot. When you hired her, her file passed through me. Prestigious degrees? Fake. Work experience? Also fake. You let a con artist lead you by the nose, Thomas, and nearly destroyed my reputation in the process. My words were knives, stabbing straight into his heart. Thomas opened his mouth, but no sound came. His eyes fixed on me, a storm of regret, panic, and despair swirling inside. Around us, the murmurs grew louder. Eyes shifted from me to Thomas, turning from suspicion to fury. An older shareholder finally spoke, his voice shaking with anger. "Thomas, do you have anything left to say?" Thomas swayed as if the floor beneath him was crumbling. He tried to speak, but only incoherent sounds spilled out, until finally he collapsed into his chair, head bowed, both hands covering his face. The triumphant smile he had worn just moments ago had vanished, replaced by the image of a broken man, stripped bare of all his lies. I stood in the boardroom, my eyes sweeping over the faces that had been filled with suspicion and anger just minutes earlier. "Gentlemen," I turned to the board and senior management, my voice low but ringing clear. "I know you fear the company will collapse. But with me, Margaret Taylor, here, this company will not fail. As for the 3 loss-making projects Thomas approved, I already have a recovery plan. Within 1 month, not only will we cover the losses, but we will also turn a profit." I pushed forward the thick stack of documents, the result of 2 sleepless nights, my eyes burning and my head throbbing, placing them before each of them. Pages rustled as they were turned, and the eyes of the shareholders shifted from doubt to astonishment, then gradually to admiration. Mr. Price, who had criticized me harshly only moments ago, bent over the plan, his brows knitting, then slowly relaxing. He looked up, his voice laden with regret. "Miss Taylor, we misjudged you. This plan is brilliant." "Yes," a younger director chimed in, his eyes gleaming with respect. "You are the true pillar of this company." The tide had completely turned. The scornful eyes that had been on me now turned toward Thomas, standing isolated in the corner, like a pathetic clown in the farce he had staged. His head hung low, his hands trembling, unable to meet anyone's gaze. I pointed to the big screen, where the video still froze at the moment Lillian sent the message to Thomas, my voice cold as ice. "I will send this to every partner and every media outlet. I want the world to see who really tried to destroy this company. Lillian will face the court, and you, Thomas—" I turned, my gaze locking on his ashen face, every word deliberate. "We are not finished. You are officially dismissed. As for your shares, my lawyer will buy them back at market price." "Margaret!" Thomas roared, his bloodshot eyes burning, stumbling toward me as if to grab me, but his unsteady legs nearly gave way. "You can't treat me like this. We're husband and wife." "Husband and wife?" I scoffed, a smile without warmth, only icy contempt. "When I was writhing in pain in a hospital bed, you were buying tea for another woman. When our son had a raging fever, you were out strolling with her. When I stayed up all night saving this company, you were conspiring with outsiders to betray me. Is that what you call husband and wife? Thomas, you are nothing but trash." The word trash cut through the room like a final strike. Silence fell, broken only by Thomas's heavy breathing. I raised my hand, my voice stripped of emotion. "Take him out." 2 guards entered, each seizing one arm. This time he did not resist, letting them drag him away like a lifeless body. Just before the door shut, he looked back at me, his eyes tangled with regret, resentment, and a flicker of pleading. But it was too late. My heart had frozen long ago, a block of ice that would never melt. News of Thomas spread through the business world like wildfire. Headlines screamed, "Foolish CEO duped by Mistress nearly destroys company." He became a laughingstock, falling from the summit of prestige to a rat scurrying in the streets, with no company willing to hire him. Lillian's fate was worse. The video I released stripped away the lies, and she was convicted of defamation for the fake recording, along with degree fraud. She was sentenced to 1 year in prison. George later told me her mental state quickly deteriorated behind bars, but I didn't care. They weren't worth my thoughts. I poured all my strength into reviving the company. 1 month later, not only had I fixed the damage from Thomas's reckless projects, I had secured several major contracts, driving the stock price to record highs. The employees no longer called me Thomas's wife. They called me Miss Taylor, a name that now rang with respect and pride. Every step I took down the halls of the company was no longer met with whispers, but with admiring eyes and respectful nods. That night, the neon lights of the company building spilled across the sidewalk, painting the empty street in gold. I stepped out after a long day, my heels striking tired rhythms against the cold stone pavement. Suddenly, a figure staggered into the glow of the street lamp, so gaunt I almost didn't recognize him. Thomas. His hair was a tangled mess, his suit wrinkled and dusty, none of the presence of the man who once stood at the top. His eyes, dull and hollow, lit up when they found me, like a drowning man spotting a lifeline. He rushed forward, forcing a twisted smile, his voice hoarse, breaking. "Margaret!" I stopped, my gaze sweeping over his pitiful face, with nothing but indifference. "What is it?" My voice was dry, stripped of feeling, as though I were speaking to a stranger. "I was wrong." "I truly regret it. I was foolish, blinded by Lillian." "Margaret, give me another chance, please." "Thomas," I brushed his hand aside, my tone cold. "Did you forget?" "My divorce papers are already filed. Your shares have been bought back, the money transferred to your account. There's nothing left between us." Thomas collapsed to his knees, the crack of bone against pavement echoing in the silent night. "I won't divorce. We still have a son." He shook his head like a madman, his hands clawing desperately at the hem of my coat. "Margaret, I can't lose you. The company needs me. It belongs to both of us." I yanked his hands away, my movement sharp, unyielding. "Thomas, hasn't the company thrived even more since you left?" My question struck him like an invisible slap. He froze, his mouth gaping, no words coming. The truth was a blade. Without him, the company had not only survived, it had flourished. "Thomas, stop lying to yourself," I said, each word slicing into him. "You never loved me. You loved the power and status I gave you. Now that you've lost everything, you want to come back. On what grounds? Your affair? Or nearly destroying everything I built?" I moved toward the waiting car, but Thomas lunged, gripping the door with both hands, his nails screeching against the paint with a piercing sound. "Margaret, don't go! Listen to me. Lillian was just a fling. You're the one I love." His voice cracked, desperate, like an animal cornered. "Is that so?" A deep voice cut through the night, silencing his plea. George stepped out from the shadows, tablet in hand, the blue glow casting his face in grim light. He tapped the screen, and an audio recording played, Thomas's vile, shameless voice filling the air. "Honey, once I take all the shares from that arrogant woman, we'll get married. The company will be ours. Don't worry, I'm sick of her already. Lillian is the sweetest." The filth of his words spilled out, and Thomas's face drained white, like crumpled paper, his eyes wide in horror, staring at the screen as though facing a demon. This was the ace I had held until the end. I knew exactly what kind of man he was. That's why I had George place someone to watch him. Every word, every move of his was in my hands. He staggered, his arms falling limp, his voice stammering. "Margaret, you've been watching me. Since when? Does it matter?" I curled my lips, my smile colder than ice. "Compared to the trap you and Lillian set for me, my methods are nothing. I only return to you what you tried to give me." I opened the car door, not sparing him another glance. "Thomas!" My voice rang sharp, final. Never show yourself to me or our son again. Next time, I won't let you off so easily. The car pulled away, the engine's low growl melting into the night. In the rearview mirror, Thomas's figure shrank. A pitiful wreck slumped on the sidewalk, until he was nothing more than a fading black speck. I didn't bother to look back. After that night, Thomas disappeared from the city. Rumor had it he took the money I paid for his shares and returned to his old hometown, or perhaps fled abroad, living like a man on the run from his own past. I didn't care. He, along with the painful memories, had become nothing more than a faded stain, like spilled ink on paper, no longer worth a backward glance. My life turned to a new page, light and fresh like the morning breeze through an open window. I brought my son home from his grandmother's, hired the best care so he could have a childhood filled with joy, his clear laughter ringing in a house warmer than ever before. I brought my parents to live with me, our dinners alive again with laughter, the scent of my mother's cooking drifting through the air, carrying me back to the carefree days of my youth. Each morning, I woke to see my son sleeping peacefully in my arms, my heart light as a bird soaring free into the endless blue sky. At the company, I poured everything into leading it through the storm, until it became a machine stronger than ever. The numbers on the stock chart no longer burned red, but bloomed green, like trees stretching tall after a storm. My employees looked at me with respect. I was no longer anyone's shadow. I was Margaret Taylor, CEO, mother to my son, daughter to my parents, and above all, myself, free and proud. A year later, at the company's year-end party, I stood on stage in a dazzling red dress, clinging to my body under the blazing chandelier. Hundreds of eyes watched me, filled with admiration and reverence, like stars glittering in the night. I held the microphone, my voice warm and steady, sharing the journey through hardship, the nights I thought I would collapse, but rose stronger than ever. When I finished, the hall thundered with applause, echoing like a storm, wrapping around me, soothing wounds that had long since healed. George stood in the front row, his eyes glowing with pride and emotion. When I stepped down, he handed me a glass of champagne, a gentle smile on his lips. Ms. Taylor, congratulations. Thank you. George? I smiled, clinking glasses with him, the clear sound of glass ringing out. I should be the one thanking you. Without you, I wouldn't have stood firm. He shook his head, his voice low and warm. I only did what was right. You are the one who deserves to lead this company. We shared a look, no more words needed. In that moment, I felt a bond deeper than colleagues, a connection of souls who had weathered the storm together. In the middle of the party, I stepped onto the balcony, letting the cool night breeze flow through my hair, carrying the breath of freedom from the city. Below me, the city lights stretched out like a magnificent galaxy, glittering with dreams that had once been mine and Thomas's. But standing alone now, I felt peace like never before. No more pain, no more bitterness, only a quiet calm, like a still lake reflecting the moon. My phone buzzed lightly in my pocket, a message from an unknown number. Margaret, I'm sorry. I looked at the screen, my finger sliding without hesitation, deleting the message and blocking the number in an instant. Some people, some things, once past, should be buried forever. My assistant approached, handing me a small box, her voice soft. Miss Taylor, someone sent this to you. I opened it. Inside was a handmade bracelet, engraved with my name and my son's. A note lay beside it, the scrawled letters. For Margaret and our beloved son. I recognized Thomas's handwriting immediately. Memories surged, like old film reels. The days in our cramped studio apartment, when I was pale with nausea from pregnancy, and Thomas sat clumsily making this gift, sweat beading on his forehead, his goofy grin as he said, "Margaret, I'll buy the biggest carousel for you and our baby." Back then, his eyes were bright, and I lived in his heart. But that light had long since gone out, and his heart had no place left for me. I held the bracelet, my fingers tracing the carved lines, then slowly walked to the trash bin beside the balcony. The metallic clatter against the bottom echoed sharp and final, like the end of a sentence. No matter how beautiful the past, it remained only the past. I turned, stepping back into the hall, where shimmering lights and soft music awaited. Laughter and the clear ring of clinking glasses filled the air, like a symphony of life, of the future of a new beginning. Thomas and his belated regrets could rot in the corners of memory, like that bracelet lying silent at the bottom of the trash. I lifted my head high, stepping into the light, into the world of my own, where I am Margaret Taylor, free, proud, and never looking back. There are wounds that bring you to your knees, but it's from those very wounds that you learn to rise, to walk, and to become the brightest version of yourself.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.